I'm Chandra Proffitt.
And I'm Jeremiah Proffitt, and this is another episode of Proffitt's Resurrection Land Cruisers TV.
Today on Proffitt's Resurrection Land Cruisers TV, sheet metal pads,
We build some custom brake lines,
custom wiring,
general fabrication of lots of odds and ends.
Thanks again for all the emails and the positive feedback. We love making these videos.
So we'll keep making them. Be sure to share them with all your friends. Let's get to the action.
Clint, every time I see you, you're taking out rust.
Yeah, it's job security with Land Cruisers.
Nice.
Most of them come in and the corners and the sill are gone in them, so a lot of the stuff we can buy, a lot of the stuff I have to make. So that's what I'm doing. We had to cut everything out first and then get all the surfaces, you know, square and workable, so when you put the new parts on, everything lines up good. And so that's what I'm finishing up on right now.
One of the tricks to welding in sheet metal patches is that you need to go slow and take your time, because throughout the course of welding in a patch, it'll tend to move on you. So you have to pay attention that it stays intact structurally. You want to get the metal as perfect as possible so it doesn't take much body work to make it look great.
A lot of you guys know that I used to be a school teacher, and it's probably because of that words and nomenclature are pretty important to me. You know I hate the term frame-off restoration. Well, here's another common mistake. This piece of sheet metal right here is called the rear sill. A lot of people call it a rear seal, and it does help to seal the car in, but really it's called a sill, like a window sill. So when you're referring to this piece, which Clint has replaced, it is the rear sill.
We have Alex behind us. Alex builds tons and tons of pieces, custom fabricated pieces for nearly every single project in the shop. So Alex, tell me a little bit about what you're doing right here.
I'm test fitting this custom skid plate for this rock crawler.
So you build so many custom pieces for all of these rigs here in the shop. Tell me how you visualize what it's going to look like when it's done.
First I have to visualize where the piece is going to fit the best. Then I have to figure out how to hold it in place without it looking hokey. No square tubing, no angle iron, no channel. I like to build stuff out of flat plate, incorporate dimple dies and speed holes to offset a big bland piece. That way I can shape it however it best fits the vehicle.
Hey Jordy, what are you doing?
Hey Jeremiah, I am bending and straightening custom brake lines.
All right. We have to build brake lines for 90% of the trucks we build here, right?
Yeah, most of what we do involves spring over lift kits or custom engines, which then requires custom brake lines.
Yeah, gotta move. Tell me about this machine.
So this machine will take this big coiled piece and make it straight for me.
Yeah. And it's good for brake line and fuel line, all kinds of different things that are
tubing.
Yep, if you want straight. Kind of the opposite of a tubing roller will bend this stuff for you if you want it bent. Of course, I suppose you could use this to roll your tubing too. So after you get the piece straight, what do you do then?
Once I get the length I need, which is just a short piece today, I'm simply going to cut it off with something as rudimentary as a good old-fashioned tubing cutter. Now we have a nice straight piece. I'm going to need to form this into the shape that I actually want. So this piece of brake line is going to go between the body and the frame of the vehicle. And so we're going to need to develop a coil to absorb any flex between the frame and the body. We do that using this piece of equipment right here. Intricate process to get this just set just right.
So now, Jordy's gonna have to put some ends on it because brake lines aren't hose clamped on. They take a special kind of flare. So what do we got to do that?
One of the most important parts in building brake lines is to always remember to install your nuts before your flare. It's impossible to do afterwards. And this little tool gives us a very professional flare. The first thing we'll have to do is make the inverted part of the flare, which involves putting that mandrel right down the center of the tube, and then we hydraulically bring the mandrel up into the bottom of the tubing and continue right up until we get to the point where it gets firm. Backing that out, the second part will involve using a cone to create the double flare. And our final product is a beautiful double flared brake line.
What's up, Mason?
Another day in paradise. How about you, Jeremiah?
You know I love it. I'm here all the time, like 24/7.
What I'm doing here today is kind of doing a pre-repair inspection of this panel, looking for dents, old body work, rust bubbles, peeling paint, etc. And I kind of take and mark the little areas I see with a piece of tape. That way I don't have to remember where every one of them is. And we're kind of figuring out if we're going to 100% sandblast this panel, or if we want to go a different way with it.
Because if it's original paint, that's often the best primer and the best foundation, right? Versus going all the way to bare metal. But this isn't, obviously. How often do we encounter something that's all original paint?
Rarely, actually. Large majority of the time, it's already been restored 1 to 3 times.
And when that happens, what's underneath there could be bad.
Absolutely. You have, the products that they used 30 years ago, which compared to today's products are not near as good.
Sometimes there's even lead. You ever encountered lead?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Mason, tell me about other things you look for when you're getting ready to do body work, things that aren't supposed to be there.
Absolutely. So some of the things that you're going to look for are your gaps in your panels. So for instance, your fender to your door, your fender to your hood, your tailgate to the back of the bed. You're going to look for broken items, which the owner may or may not know about. You're going to look for other people's bodywork. Okay, so what we have here is a panel that we've already pretty much worked and is getting very close to the filler and primer stages. You can see the old where there was holes before, but now we've welded them shut. Now over the years, this thing's been restored several times. Other holes that aren't OEM, that aren't original, have been made for different reasons. Different brake lines, AC lines, stuff like that.
Howdy, Eddie.
Hello, Chandra.
How you doing?
Good.
So we're going to talk about wiring a little bit here. Every rig that we do here gets some kind of custom wiring, some kind of custom electrical. I order lots of different switches. Pretty fun. Eddie, can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on with this one?
I'm in the wiring up stages of this truck. We have a lot of custom electrical in this. We're adding fuel injection, air conditioning, Dakota digital gauges, a camp light, front off-road lights, and
Lockers, front and rear.
Front and rear lockers, an ARB compressor. So there's a lot of wiring involved in this truck.
So Eddie, can you tell me a little bit about how to put the wires actually together?
There are a lot of ways to connect wires together. The only right way to do it is to solder them and heat shrink them.
Okay.
Okay, in order to solder wires together, you have to strip both sides and then tin them. Sometimes on a project, I will solder several hundred wires at any given time to make all these things work and have great connections. After you get the ends tinned, you have to install the heat shrink. And then go ahead and you can actually solder them together. It's essentially one single wire at that point. After it's soldered, then we melt the heat shrink. The heat shrink will keep any moisture out of the connection so it will last for many years to come.
All of the processes that you saw in this episode of this show and last episode as well happened on this Land Cruiser right behind me. This FJ40 might be the perfect Land Cruiser, and it showcases almost everything that we do here at Proffitt'S Resurrection Land Cruisers. Let's check it out. FJ40s like this are what we build the most. This is a body-off Stage 3 restoration. It's got all Toyota DNA plus some aftermarket goodies that make it super drivable on and off road. The engine is a 3FE 4-liter fuel-injected straight 6, and behind it is a Toyota H55F transmission that you saw in last week's episode of this show. That engine and transmission combo sends power to the stock FJ40 axles with ARB locking differentials and chromoly axle shafts. The suspension on this vehicle is a 2.5-inch Old Man Emu lift with Bilstein shocks and a Proffitt'S Resurrection Land Cruiser's shackle reversal. Inside of this FJ40 are most of the features that we offer in an FJ40 restoration. There's a 6-point family roll cage and Dakota digital gauges, which are fantastic. We also have the new generation vintage AC, which does a great job of heating and cooling the vehicle. The front and rear of this FJ40 sports Proffitt'S Resurrection Land Cruiser's custom bumpers. The front with a worn winch, and the rear with a camp light, spare tire carrier, and cooler basket.
Thanks again for watching Proffitt'S Resurrection Land Cruisers TV. Please share with your friends, share on social media sites, share with everyone.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram because that's where we put all of our latest and coolest content. We are at Pro Cruiser.
Also, you can check us out on Facebook at Proffitt'S Resurrection Land Cruisers and our website, resurrectionlandcruisers.com.
Thanks for watching. So I think I'll walk up and say, I'll be here.
Yeah, watch your eyes. If I clap, do they go off?
Yeah. That's on. That's off. That's clap there.
No, walk up. Walk up. Right there. Skip. Cartwheel in.
You can't bounce very much. You only have to bounce just a little bit. Like, you have to be very careful so it doesn't bounce off your head.
First I have to